The name of the podcast is Dream Plan Execute, where I highlight individuals who dream frictionless, plan thoroughly, execute relentlessly, and Renard Henry. You are definitely one of those persons.
So the funny thing is, I did not go to college initially for computer science. I went into college to become a physical therapist. I wanted to do sports medicine. What happened was I took my very first class going into sports medicine. I was failing that class pretty bad. So what I did, I dropped the class, but then I went straight into computer science after that. Sometimes failure puts you on your right path. So that's what happened with me. I got into jiu-jitsu, and jiu-jitsu became this thing in my life that I couldn't get rid of. I couldn't stop doing it. I've always been the head of IT with Toyota Connected. My first year at Toyota Connected was rough. It was, because I've led many teams, but Toyota moves a lot faster. Toyota Connected is the innovation hub for Toyota. We don't report to Toyota Motors North America. We report directly to Japan. My customer are the employees. I need to make sure that everything is in tip-top shape so they can do their job and be successful. So to make sure that the technology is going in that vehicle is number one.
If you were 19 or 20 years old, what are the things that you would want to tell yourself?
Start building a network early. Building those relationships are very valuable. When you start moving into an executive level, it's not who you know, it's the people that know you.
Renald, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
Man, I'm good, man. I'm happy you took the time to be on the podcast. The name of the podcast is Dream Plan Execute, where I highlight individuals who dream frictionless, plan thoroughly, execute relentlessly, and Renard Henry. You are definitely one of those persons. The experience that you have at the highest level, not just in the boardrooms at Toyota Technologies, but also as a black belt in Jiu-Jitsu. It speaks to your ability to commit, speaks to your ability to communicate and execute relentlessly. I'm just happy you took the time to be on the podcast.
Yeah, same here, man. I'm excited. No, working at Toyota has been great, and being on this podcast has been exciting, man. I've been looking forward to it.
Well, listen, let's dive into Reynolds. So before we get to black belt, before we get to head of Toyota North America technology, let's go back to even primary school or prep school. What was your passion initially growing up?
Oh man, growing up, like most people, it wasn't technology, to be honest. It was, I wanted to play football. I wanted to go to NFL like anybody else. Played sports all my life. Either played basketball, football, baseball, you name it. I probably played it sometime in growing up. Played football in high school. I wound up getting injured, so that basically ended my football career after that. And, looking through that, going through high school, it's just like everybody else. I was a fun kid. I was quiet, which a lot of people as an adult now are shocked that I was quiet as a kid, just how much I'm easily can conversate now. But, when I was growing up, I was quiet. I had to get to know you in order to really be comfortable with you. And I played a lot of sports more often.
Interesting. So, what position in football did you play?
I played defensive lineman. Now, don't get me wrong. I always wanted to be a running back. Younger, everybody wanted to be a running back. But once I started playing high school, I played defensive lineman. Played that for a little while until I got hurt. I wound up getting a hip injury. I had a dislocated hip, and that basically then, you talking about in the 90s, that ended my football career after that. So I still got to play some sports, play a little basketball here and there, but nothing in order to get a scholarship in, if that makes sense.
Got it. And so at that point, you had to sit down and think. And how did you get introduced to like computer science, and how did you find your passion in that?
So so this is gonna show my age, of course. I started getting into computers, when gateway computers were around. So that shows my age. Yeah, yeah. A little old, that shows my age and everything. But start off with a gateway computer. I think my first operating system was Windows ME. So that was a terrible one. We called that the blue screen of death operating system.
Right.
Windows is always good about making a good one and then make several bad ones and then make another good one after that. So, it started off with me. Of course, like I said, I grew up in the 90s. So you're talking about, AOL just started around that
Yep.
time, chat rooms, etc. So being growing up in that time and seeing how fast technology has moved interests me, of course. Like I said, you start from where I started from. Technology was just moving forward at that time, but it moved so fast compared to where we are now. You talking about dial up. Now everybody has, 5G, etc. everywhere now. And back then nobody was even talking about that yet. So technology has always interested me in some aspect, but now technology is what I'm mostly focused on going forward.
Yeah, no, I mean you're seeing it from floppy disk to 1 terabyte, you know, uh, external drives that you can
Yeah.
walk around with. So that's a range of experience. I mean, I grew up in the 90s, but like from your vantage point, like you felt it, right? Like you
Yeah.
definitely saw the world before like a real adaptation to the use of computers to know like it is a necessity and you have to use it. And that growth happened, I would say, within the last 30 years, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Comfortably that you've seen that. And so at that point, when you go into college, is it that something like, you could have done accounting, you could have done, engineering. What interests you about computer science that you're like, this is what I want to dial in on? Because it wasn't like something that everyone knew about at the time when you decided to do it.
Yeah, so the funny thing is I did not go to college initially for computer science.
Mm.
I went into college to become a physical therapist. I wanted to do sports medicine. I wanted to get with a sports team, do all that. And what happened was I took my very first class going into sports medicine. It was medical terminology because in sports medicine,
Yeah.
just doing that, you almost have to be at the same level as a doctor. You have to
Right.
know everything almost to that level. So medical terminology, I was failing that class pretty bad. Pretty bad. I'll be honest. It was pretty bad. I finally working hard for almost 2 weeks straight. Finally got a C on a test, and the teacher came over. He said, "Man, I'm so happy you passed. You got a C, but you're gonna fail this class." He said, "Why don't you go drop this class and come back next year?" So what I did, I dropped the class, but then I went straight into computer science after that because I was
Mhm.
already immersed into it already. So sometimes I always tell people, sometimes the a failure puts you on your right path. So that's what happened with me. I went to something that I thought I wanted to do, and come to find out, computer science and just technology in general was what my real passion was.
Yeah, I have similar stories in my life where I wouldn't say I was the greatest student initially, but because of persistence and those key moments in your life that trigger moments for you. So for me, and I always in the podcast talk about an athletic mindset, right? And the reason for an athletic mindset is you don't win every point. You don't win every game. In fact, most successful athletes, if you look at the percentage, if you took that percentage and carried it to a school setting, they're failing, right? Well, so they win at the right moments, right? So winning at the right moments come with consistency, discipline, and hard work over a very long period of time where you fail. That experience came in tennis for me. So I was a short, fat kid, right? As a kid, as I grew up in Jamaica, everyone is not on the chunky side for the most part in Jamaica. So being a chunkster, running around with everyone else, soccer wasn't going to be for me, right? Track and field certainly wasn't for me at that point, right? And so my mom was like, "Listen, I bought the tennis racket. I wasn't even interested in tennis at the time." And she's like, "Here's a tennis racket. Go and play some tennis." Right. First day on the court, everyone's laughing. Like this chunky kid trying to get the ball can't get the ball. But I kept showing up. I kept showing up to training. Kept showing up to training. Keep diligently working on my craft, hitting the ball against the wall when no one else is playing. Playing at break time. Playing after school. Eventually, you start losing weight. Eventually, your technique starts to become better. Eventually, you start getting to the ball, and what was your weakness becomes your strength. Know that I have power behind my balls. I can blow people off the court, right? I can make space on the court that kids my age couldn't because, typically someone weaker would get to the ball, but they don't have the strength. So now what became a disadvantage initially is an advantage. Became captain of the tennis team, won regionals, won nationals. So at that point, I recognized at that moment, like, okay, you can become very good at something. And the system of becoming good at something is just consistently hammering at it and drilling and keep drilling when no one else is drilling. And so I took that aspect, and eventually tennis became, you know, I fell out of love with tennis at some point, but I fell in love with something else, which was engineering and construction and drawings and, so, that aspect of my life. But I took that lesson from tennis and I just translated it to what I was doing. And the hurdle for me was math. Like at some point, math was difficult for me. You can't be an engineer who don't like math. And so my math teacher at the point was like, listen, you're going about this all the wrong way. You're looking at the problem, but you're not attacking the problem. It's like fail fast, fail often, and then come back to me and I'll show you where you're not drilling or not thinking through this problem properly. And that's where a lot of mathletes happen because athleticism and math have a very symbiotic relationship. I find that a lot of athletes, if they really take that presence and do it in math, they like it. It's either math or physics that they really kind of double down on. And I'm sure coming from your jiu-jitsu background, you've seen that like play of like having a problem and figuring it out. So I want to double down on that. Like, when did you get into Brazilian jiu-jitsu? Like, when was that
Ah,
process for you?
so for me, jujitsu started off. I always watched the UFC. UFC was just starting around.
Yes.
I started watching that, and once I moved to Dallas, I
Mm,
got into jujitsu. At first, it was MMA. I wanted to be an MMA fighter, but then I was moving up in my career professionally, and I was like, well, I can't come to work with black guys, etc. So I
right.
decided I was going to focus on jujitsu, and jujitsu just became this thing in my life that I couldn't get rid of, if that makes sense. Once I started, I
Yeah.
couldn't stop doing it. I remember one of my first classes, a guy probably he might have been 150 pounds.
Yeah.
And he wound up choking me out three different times back to back.
Right.
And most people would quit after that. People like, man, I can't do this, the humble. I came back the next day. That next day turned into now 14 years of
Mm,
training. Just the discipline and, like you say, getting better. I've gotten to meet some of the best people in the world in jiu-jitsu, some people who are executives, CEOs, etc. But that doesn't matter when you step on the mats. No one cares what your job title is or what you do. It's you're learning, you're training, etc. And I trained most of my jujitsu years with a bad hip. So that football injury that I had, that
yeah.
was a hip injury. I wound up having surgery and it got worse over time. So I trained 13 years that way. I got my black belt. I got my black belt January 20, no, sorry, not January, probably December of 23.
Mhm.
Okay. Soon as that happened, I went right into surgery right after that and had surgery for my hip surgery and still train to this day. I love the camaraderie of jujitsu because, like I said, you play sports, you get used to that. You get used to being in a community. I love that it's grueling, it's hard, it's difficult for you. It's pushing you past a limit that you did not even know you had. And
Yep.
that's one of the reasons. But it also brings so much out of you. Like I said, I used to be a quiet person. Jiu-jitsu changed me and made me a person that wasn't an introvert anymore, a person that wanted to talk to people, wanted to get to know people, gave me more confidence. And I needed that in my career. So jujitsu has helped me out so much. It's made me a better leader. It's made me a better person, made me a better fiance, etc. You name it, jujitsu has
Jiu-jitsu
helped
did
me
it.
so much. Yeah. So I always go back to it. I lead with jujitsu in mind, paying it
Mhm.
forward, seeing other people grow in their career is one of the best things I can say that I love to see. I want to create other leaders. So when I work and I have people on my team, I want to see them become other leaders. It doesn't matter about your title; it's creating you and making you a leader. So jujitsu has given me so much. You go back and think about a kid from New Orleans wouldn't have thought about doing jujitsu.
Right.
But I moved here and moved in Dallas, and jujitsu is something that is part of my life. It's something I can't quit, even if I wanted to. I just can't. It's part of my life. It's part of what I do on a regular basis, and always has made me a better person.
No, one of the beautiful things about jiu-jitsu is it's small games of problem solving, right? So like when someone gets mount on you, right, and they're adding pressure to your chest, there's a way to approach it. And panicking
Hmm.
and spazzing is not going to get you out to someone who knows what they're doing on top of you, right? And it's a game of like trying to stay calm under pressure, right?
Hmm.
Because hyperventilating is not going to help you. It's almost when someone like yourself, a black belt, is on you, it feels like you're drowning. And the more you panic, is the deeper you get snared into their traps,
Hmm.
right? And so it's just like some of the moments that are like key is like finally escaping someone being mounted on top of you. That's like a win to itself, right?
Yeah.
Getting out of side control and regaining your guard, right? Putting on your first submission on somebody, or escaping a submission, escaping a triangle, escaping a armbar, something that you've seen in class before, but you're executing it. Those little wins and what you had to do to get to those points, it's really nice to see. And I guess by the time you get to blue belt and purple belt, it's like now you've learned the basics. Now it's like honing your game. Like, what is your game? Are you a guard player? Are you a pressure passer? Like, what is that you enjoy doing? Like, what are you going to be the greatest at? And double down on that, because that's your niche to your path to victory. And those parallels come across in leadership. Some leaders are great at building morale, right? Others not quite so, but they're good at being a monitoring type individual where they're good at tracking Excel. And every approach is a little different. Everyone should learn from everyone, but everyone has a niche skill set. For you, what do you enjoy about your game in jiu-jitsu? Are you a pressure passer, or are you someone else that prefer playing guard? Like, what's your game?
So the funny thing is, I
Yeah.
play guard a lot,
Okay.
but I'm a pressure guy at the same time. I make 5 minutes for people feel like 15, 20 minutes.
I'm sure.
A lot of pressure. I'll make you have to carry me while you
Okay.
breathing the entire
Yes.
time. So that's my because like the older you get, you change your game. So
Mm,
I grapple with a lot of younger guys. So
right.
my job is to slow them down to my game. Like, yeah, I can go fast for a certain amount of time,
Yeah.
but eventually their youth is gonna beat anything that I have. So skill comes into a lot of it. Technique
Mm,
comes into a lot of it. I just told a guy I was training with recently. He used to play football, used to play
yeah.
offensive lineman, and I told him I said, "You keep training, but eventually all that strength you have is going to get null and void when you go against somebody who's the same strength as you or stronger than you. So
Yes.
that's where all that technique comes in because I felt that before. I was
Mm,
like, man, I'm strong. All of a sudden I went against somebody who was stronger than me and understood that it was a difference. I had to use a lot of technique
mm,
in order to win those rounds with that person. So it's understanding you the cool thing is people always say you're playing chess, not checkers when it comes to
mm,
jujitsu. It's strategy. It's learning your opponents, learning moves over time, etc. And that's one thing I love. That's the same thing as leadership.
yes.
We're looking 5 years down the road. We're not looking out just for today. Because if you're just focused on today, then you're just trying to manage problems. You're not trying to see how we're going to get better 5 years down the line, how we're going to work on the budget 5 more years down the line, etc. What's the new technology coming in 5 to 10 years down the line? That's the focus of jujitsu. It's 3 moves ahead. I got to be 3 moves ahead of you. If I
Mm,
move you to the left, that's actually mean I'm trying to set you up for a move 3 moves later. That's the same thing we talk about when it comes to chess. Same thing when it comes to leadership and running a team and leading a team. You let the team lead that part of the department. But
mm,
your job as the head of that department is to increase growth and mitigate risk. So my job as a person at Toyota Connected is to look way further down the line than the rest of the team has to
mm,
make sure they're prepared. So when we get to that line, everybody's ready for it. So it's just learning over time. I had to change my mindset when it came to leadership. I'll be honest, I started off as a manager. And I
mm,
always talk about there's a difference between management and leadership.
yeah.
I had to understand I need to let the team, grow, get better, etc. I couldn't do all the work because then that means the job, excuse me, that I'm getting paid for, I'm not doing my job.
Yeah.
because I'm too busy in the trenches trying to do the same thing with them. So I had to change my mindset and understand that every move we make affects the business, not just the department.
Yeah, it's tough, especially coming from, because usually typical growth through leadership is you kind of on a project manager
Yeah.
track. For some point, you get projects to manage, and day to day tactical operational questions come to you as the project manager, right? And then as you keep growing, you're more now managing project managers, right? So you're not the day to day operations. You
Hmm.
are now back end operationally making sure everything technology and administratively is ready for the person who is going to be the one executing it, right?
Hmm.
And I think a lot of times in leadership or just in companies in general, that is not explained to a
Hmm.
person who's growing in the company, right? Like you see a strong project manager doesn't mean they're going to be a great operational director from the back end, because no, they gotta let go a little bit to allow the other individuals to grow. You have to be okay with your team making mistakes. It's almost parenting, right? Like it's
Hmm.
almost like you got to let the team make some mistakes and be okay with them making the mistake, but kind of help them through the process when they get
Hmm.
to that point. Allow them to make decisions within range and parameters that you feel comfortable with. And you can now focus on the long term strategic outlook of the overall projects. Like what are we trying to accomplish with doing four or
Hmm.
five projects at the same time? Well, how are we bringing value to our client? What are the overall deliverables we're bringing? But that's very difficult for most to get used to, because it's never really explained. Like, it's not like this is what being a senior director or a senior vice president or even senior project manager means. This is what you're expected to do. It's kind of just thrusted at you, and you kind of have to figure it out. And some people figure it out and others don't. They just, to be the reality, they don't figure it out, or they don't even care to want to let go of the purse strings for you. So let's dive back into like your Toyota journey, because I'm sure you started in, like, how did you start in Toyota? Like, what was your first role at Toyota?
So I've been with Toyota Connected
Hmm.
for 3.5 years. We're almost about to go to 4 years.
Okay.
So I've always been the head of IT. I started off as the head of IT. I've always been the head of IT with Toyota Connected. Now, my first year at
Hmm.
Toyota Connected was rough. It
Yeah.
was because I've led many teams, but Toyota moves a lot faster. So just to give you a background of Toyota Connected, Toyota Connected is the innovation hub for Toyota. So we don't report to Toyota Motors North America. We report directly to Japan.
Mm.
So we focus on the infotainment system and the safety connect of the vehicle. But a lot of the technology that goes into the vehicle in other areas comes from Toyota Connected. So we work with Toyota companies globally. Any of the affiliates globally, we work with them. So when I started at Toyota Connected, man, I'll be honest, it was nerve wracking at first because they move so much faster than anyone else, any other company I ever worked for when I started there. So for me, it was, I always joke and tell people that, I played college football. I thought it was moving fast. And then I went to the pros and found out everybody was fast or faster than me. So that's what it felt like going to Toyota Connected. I
Yeah.
was like, man, everybody's moving fast. You're talking about all these great people who have PhDs, etc., in their field. They move faster. It's not your normal
Yes.
technology company. So, from an IT standpoint, you can't treat everybody as they don't know a lot. Most of the time, before they even get to my team, they've already troubleshooted themselves to before they even talk to us. So, my team is more than just a first level. We're at second to fifth level already on far as troubleshooting, etc. by the time somebody gets to us. So for me, I had to learn the speed, the pace of how Toyota Connected worked so I could keep accelerating and move up. And now, yeah, I work at a very higher pace than I thought I could or even thought I needed to once I got to Toyota Connected. So, like I say, every year We look at our network stacks. We look at the next projects that are coming down. We try to see what the other departments are doing because we have to make sure they're on the latest and greatest technology so
Mhm.
they can do their job. For me, my customer are the employees. I need to make sure that everything is in tip top shape so can do their job and be successful. So to make sure that the technology is going in that vehicle is number one, making sure, like everyone that knows, Toyotas run for a very long time. That's
I
one
have
thing
one.
I do too. I drive a Tundra.
Yeah.
The Tundra was my very first truck and
Mm.
very first Toyota, and I love driving that Tundra. Anytime my fiance asks me, "Hey, can you go somewhere?" Sure, I will hop in that truck with no problem and go in there. And it gives me a lot of pride knowing who puts the technology in the vehicles, etc., for
Yes.
me to drive that truck. So I take a lot of pride in that, and just the backing of Toyota in general. Yesterday I saw somebody in a I think it was a '98 Tundra still driving that, no problem. That's the thing. It's like once you buy one of these vehicles, it's
That's
probably
a
gonna
fact.
last you forever.
I
So
can I can attest to that.
yeah.
I lived in New York. I bought my Camry 2020 SE all wheel drive, right? I bought it in 2020. I had a project in Minnesota where I was building a Verizon data center. So it was a data center. We're building it from the ground up. They had an existing data center. We're adding or expanding their data center facility. And so at some point, you're going to rent a car over in Minnesota. I told my team, listen, doesn't make sense. I rent a car for $1,000 when I can my car payments is like half of that or less than half of that. Let me ship my car over and I'll use my car. No, Minnesota gets a lot of snow, tremendous amount of snow. My Camry, all wheel drive, no problem. I was cutting through snow, no problems. Granted, they do a good job of cleaning the roads, but like a typical car that would be sliding around, I had no issues. It killed the snow. I brought it back. I still have it to this day. My fiance, my wife, at the time she was my fiance, my wife, she has a love hate relationship with my car because if she comes in the car and she's driving and she don't want to put her seatbelt on, it's gonna ding the whole time until you put your seatbelt on. And the one that I have is a ding that is intended. It's not trying to be polite. It's telling you put your seatbelt on. So it's just technology. Even when you're driving, I mean, all of these cars these days have it, but like for the price point, for the reliability, there's this niche avenue that Toyota has between price point and technology.
Mhm.
There's no the value that it brings is unmatched, right? Because you can get the same technology in a more luxurious car per se than a Camry, but you're spending a lot more money, and you're gonna have a lot more problems later when you have to change out pieces of that car, right? And
Mhm.
so if you're looking for value, and the next thing too that Toyota is doing that everyone's like, they recognize we had the value brand on the wraps, but the biggest concern for Toyota it wasn't a sexy car, and they've
Mhm.
changed that mantra. Like the new Camrys look good, all the new Toyota cars have people doing a little double take over here. Even the Prius, which wasn't
Yeah.
a sexy car before, right? Let's be honest, the Prius used to get clowned out a lot. It does not. People do not clown on a Prius anymore. In fact, I think Priuses look better than a Tesla. The new Priuses now look better than a Tesla. So proud Camry Toyota owner. Love that, someone like yourself is there behind the scenes making sure the technology is keeping up with the times. Before you got to Toyota, where were you before, and what lessons did you learn from there that you carry into your approach at Toyota?
Oh man, so throughout my career, I have been in several different industries. So I've been in healthcare, I've been in construction, I've been in online education. Yeah, I've been at a medical school at one point in
Mm,
time. So I've been able to see IT in many different industries.
nice.
And it's helped me adapt very easily to other industries. It's like IT is in a sense is IT at the end of the day. It's just how does it adapt to the industry it's in?
Mm,
How do people use it, etc. So a lot of the stuff I've taken until I got to Toyota Connected was how to adapt to the different industries that I've been in. It wasn't on purpose. I didn't say, "Hey, let me move to these different industries and learn." It just happened that way.
Mm,
So doing that, I got to see the pace of how IT worked in certain industries. You say online education. I was
right.
working at an online education place called Academic Partnerships. At one point in time, they're called Rise Point now. And during the pandemic,
Yeah.
they thrived in the pandemic because no one could go to a university at the
Right.
time. People had to go online in order to keep continuing school. So I got to see the back end of that and how that worked and how people found a way to still go to school. And you talk about the pandemic. Now hybrid work, remote work is the big thing now, which before then everybody went to the office 5 days out the week. People were in the office. And now it's hybrid or it's 100% remote. People can find jobs that way. So even before then, I worked at a construction company called Lehigh Hanson. Now they call Heidelberg Cement. Sorry, no, Heidelberg Materials now.
Mm,
Big global construction company. They've done a lot of work out here in Texas, just in general. A lot of the bricks, etc., that people need come from Heidelberg Cement. So I got to see how quarries, etc., how they worked,
right.
how technology worked, being with a bunch of trucks lined up waiting to get service, to
Oh
get
yeah.
gravel, etc. And when that computer goes down,
Big money.
how frustrating it is for someone to have to manually hand tickets to that driver in order for them to go get gravel, and how frustrating that is when the technology doesn't work. So just seeing that over time, and now working at Toyota Connected with a tech company, because technically we're a tech automotive company,
Right.
has been game changing for me. I'll say I started off as a IC, an individual contributor like anyone else,
Right.
and I wound up working my way up to manager and then turned into a leader over time because I had great mentors over time that made me change my mindset. And even personally, when I took my very first manager job, I was still mentally an IC.
Mm,
Because like you said, no one gives you a book and say, "Hey, this is what you need to do now that you're a manager." I
right.
had to figure it out in that first year to understand about one of the best superpowers is letting go. I had to understand that. And a funny thing is, a great executive that I know told me one thing, and that still sticks with me to this day. He said, "If you take off and the business just blows up because you took off, then you're not doing your job right."
Right.
You're At the end of the day, your job is to empower your team. So
Yeah.
when you take off, you go on vacation and you go to another company, the business continues to run. The business does technically, yes, the business needs you, but it does not need you to run the day to day anymore. That's what the team is for. And
Right.
I think a lot of people who are managers and trying to become leaders, that's one thing they forget every time. That I see mentality, I was there. I understand that you want to do all the work and be like, man, if I do all the work, the team is going to see I'm with them. They
Right.
understand that I will do anything. But if you keep doing all the work, then the team doesn't get better. The team doesn't grow. And
Right.
then you don't even get to do the job that you're getting paid for. So it's that mentality that changed over time for me. And now I love where I am now as a leader and getting to create other leaders.
No, it's amazing because it's like think about a quarterback trying to also play wide receiver
Yeah.
too, right? Like you can't score unless you let go of the ball, right? You
Mhm,
gotta trust your team and
mhm,
train them and get them in. I like to think about team synergy as a word, and
mhm.
like some of the things that give me goosebumps is seeing like the Formula One cars coming to the pit stop,
Oh, yeah.
and you see everyone knows what they need to do, and it's just hit it and go, right? Like and the ability to be precise and fast. But that comes with team synergy. You don't get precise and fast without synergy. If someone's there and it's like, where are the bolts? Where are the nuts? And I find that good managers ask very good questions,
Yeah.
right? They follow up with their team. They ask questions like, did you think about this? Did you think about that? And at first, when I was an individual contributor, that would annoy me because like, yeah, I got it. But then once you get to the manager role, you're like, okay, I get why they ask the questions they
Mhm.
ask. And some of the times, even though it annoyed me, I never voiced the annoyance. I just answered the questions. And as I got older and got more experience, I'm happy I didn't show my like misgiving to the questions, because now I get it. Like I get why they ask those questions, because they don't want something that we could have thought about slipping because we didn't think about it and no one asked the question, you know? And so now, as you get older, as you start experiencing a little bit more life, you go, okay, I get it. I get why
Mhm.
this was important, why they ask such sharp and consistent questions along the way, because they can't touch the work. They don't have the time. They're dealing with their own, if they're touching your work, their work isn't getting done,
Mhm.
right? And so that was interesting. But no, for you, what I love about your experience is because you've gone across so many industries, especially construction. I work as a construction manager. That ticket with trucks hit the nail on the head. I deal with that daily. We have the owner who needs to sign the manifest. And if the owner isn't there, I have 20 trucks just lining up, waiting for them to sign a manifest. If you have a technology where it's just digital signing, that person could literally be home and sign the manifest, and the trucks are leaving, right? I have to consistently reach out to the owner, be like, I got 20 trucks coming tomorrow. Can you make it? So little
Mhm.
stuff like that. And it's big money having trucks sitting, waiting to take
Yeah.
stone out of or take soil out of it jams up the job site. It affects more things than it helps. So when you went to Toyota, one of the biggest concepts I love, especially you've worked in American companies and you're working for a Japanese company. One of the things I loved about Toyota was their concept of Kaizen,
Mhm.
and like that continuous improvement approach and philosophy. Do you find that also in the IT side, that that's a consistent theme throughout the company, or is that something you also had to bring from your experiences from other companies?
No, no, Toyota in general,
Yeah,
that continuous improvement is true
yeah.
in everything that we do, even from an IT standpoint.
Mm.
It's always continuous improvement. How can we get better? Even if we're successful at a project, how can we get better the next time? What were, the gotchas during that project that we found out? Did we have to
Mhm.
delay on something, etc.? What do we learn from each and every project in order to get better? So it's throughout the entire company. You can feel it. People live it. And I understand what it means. And you go down to Toyota's concept just around. Let's talk about the engine.
Yeah.
When something's wrong with the engine, they don't say, "Let me get rid of the entire engine." They
Mm.
continuously improve upon that same engine and make it better. That's why a lot of issues that other manufacturers have, other car manufacturers have, they don't have anymore. They was like, okay, we found a problem. We're not going to throw the whole engine out. We're just going to improve upon that engine year over year and has that consistency, that continuous improvement that we talk about
Yeah.
is in everything that Toyota does, especially at Toyota Connected. I see it, I live it myself, especially with our team,
Yeah.
and it just makes everything else better in a sense. I had to understand that continuous improvement, and the funny thing is, it was something that I was already doing. Someone just had to put a name to it,
Great.
what it
Yeah.
was at the end of the day. I have continuous improvement in my personal life. Getting better at my own craft when it comes to jujitsu,
Right.
continuous improvement, getting better. Just because I got a black belt doesn't mean my learning and getting better stops just because I got a black belt. I
Right.
have to continuously get better throughout the years. Even if it's working out, etc.
Yeah.
Continuous improvement. I have to continue to get better, even if it's my relationship with my soon to be wife, if it's work related, etc. I have to continually get better.
No, it's amazing. I when I came across Kaizen, I also came across Ikigai,
Mhm.
and just having it labeled, having a label to quantify a feeling that you've been doing your whole life, just makes your approach a lot sharper. So for me, at some point when tennis finished, I was like, all right, well, what am I going to do? And I literally went through the philosophy of ikigai without knowing it. I was like, what am I actually good at? I like drawing. I like doing construction. This thrills me. This is exciting to me. And it was a fight because initially my high school is everyone wants to become a doctor and a lawyer, and I was just not interested. I was just that one person's like, I'm happy that you guys want to do this, but the way I feel is when people become successful, they either want to have a nice car and a nice house, and I'm going to be the person who builds you a nice house. So I'm going to double down on this right here, right? And so I was like that black sheep. I took classes that everyone was like, "Why are you even taking this? Why you had to pass in sixth grade at a 90% level to get into this high school." That anticipation or expectation is that you're going to become a lawyer, a doctor, and you want to do construction. This is so like far removed, but looking back, what I did was ikigai. I was like, I like this. I'm good at it. I know the world needs it, and I know there is compensation in regards of owning your own construction company or becoming a high level executive at a construction company. I could feel that. I knew that at that point. And so that approach helped me focus, be able to double down on this thing that I really believe was going to do well for me. And looking back, all the classes I took in high school, I use it to this day. I took art, visual art. I took IT, computer science. I did coding and I realized that wasn't for me. I was like, I did C. I was like, C is not for me. It's like this is I love IT. I love the logic of like the if then scenarios. I love the process of problem solving, but coding and semantics in C was it wasn't for me. So I was like, all right, it has to be something that provides that logical platform, but it's not systematic, context driven like programming, right? And so that was one process. But I did IT, I did technical drawing, I did construction tech, math, physics, chemistry, all the things that I use to this day, like chemistry for concrete compositions. But at the time when you're going through that moment, you don't, looking back, it's like, this is a no brainer. But looking at that moment, it was just a feeling. And most people don't have that like context feeling in their spirit to follow that path, that like path that just makes sense to me. But the word ikigai really helps people. And if you had a mentor, to your point, I got lucky. I really genuinely believe just innately because of my personality or just my resilience or stubbornness to just believe in that path is why I got there. But not everyone has that. But a mentor can clarify those things for you. A mentor can give you that word or that context that you could use, like ikigai, and then you can kind of mind map your way to where you need to go, right? And you speak to mentorship in your career, and you're both a part of vertical motion. And Tom, initially I wasn't looking for a mentor, but just speaking with Tom and just hearing it. First, I liked his videos, just an innate knowledge of, I believe you can see when someone's being genuine.
Mm-hmm.
You can feel it. And even without speaking with Tom in his videos, I felt his genuine approach to wanting to build audacious leaders who care. I felt that. And so in that approach, when he reached out to me, I was already like, I wasn't really in the market looking for a mentor, but because it's you and who you are and what you stand for, I'm interested. So what was your come today moment with vertical motion, and how has it helped you so far, and what do you think about it as a program in general?
I think you probably hear the story with everybody when it comes to vertical motion. Mine was that all of a sudden my phone must have heard me, and then all of a sudden time popped up in my Instagram feed.
Right,
Just popped up, and I thought his videos were good. I was like, okay, this speaking to me. So of course I
right,
started following him. He wound up hit me up on Instagram. I talked to him for a minute. I was still skeptical because I
right.
was like, every great coach, there's a whole bunch of fake ones trying to
That's
figure out a way to get money from you, etc. So I was a little skeptical at first, but talking to him and just having a conversation to him, I felt that it was a good idea. Like I said, talk to my fiance. I was like, man, I think I might want to do this. And I wind up signing up. And I always tell people I did not know I needed an executive coach until I got one. I
mm,
didn't know I needed one. It was that thing that a lot of people say, man. And this was for me. I moved up pretty fast in my career. was a great IC, moved into management, etc. And then I plateaued. I did not know how to get to the next level. I didn't understand. I thought it was like most people think, you work hard, you keep your head down, eventually someone's going to see you and you're going to move up, which working hard, yes, that's part of it,
Yep.
but it's not someone's just going to pick you out and just put you in that seat. People need to see that you're proven and that you're ready for that seat.
Mm,
And that's where an executive coach is, that's where sponsorship comes in. All the stuff that we do in vertical motion prepares us for that next level.
mm,
And I feel like my career has accelerated because of being in vertical motion, being in a couple of other communities I am. I feel like I used to think that getting to that next level was going to be 3 or 5 years. I don't see that anymore. I see it's probably going to happen pretty soon at the rate I'm going right now, and it's because I decided to get out of my comfort zone, because it was very uncomfortable doing this, because I
yeah.
was very unsure and taking a chance, and that chance has paid off with meeting great people like yourself and many other people in the program, and basically understanding my confidence and where I needed to be. I people at work tell me all the time, like, man, you speak different. The way you're in meetings is different.
Mhm.
You own the room now. And that's because of being in vertical motion and understanding what it takes to be at that next level and lead at that next
Next
level.
level. Yeah, because like I said, it gives you like a framework to
Hmm.
know where you want to double down your skills and attention to, right? Right? Like even if you paired it with a jiu-jitsu, some persons may want to use their athleticism or outwork somebody where you're like, as a black belt, you can tell them like, no, actually, if you just, focus on this portion of your technique, you can dial down on your athleticism, be able
Hmm.
to pass the guard, right? Like there's just certain things you could do or focus on that you're not focusing on right now that you don't even know. Because if we think about it, right, I really think what we do as executives or anyone in corporate is into being an intellectual athlete. And an athlete always has a coach. Like LeBron James still has shooting coaches. He still has coaches, right? And if we saw a boxer go out and fight without a person in his corner coaching him, we would look at him like you're crazy. Like,
Hmm.
what are you doing, right? And so, why is it if you take that concept of an athlete and you say, okay, in athleticism, physical athleticism, we know and we agree that you need coaches as an intellectual athlete, which we are, negotiation, communication, empathy, timing of decision making, all of those are intellectual athlete skills. Why wouldn't you believe you need a coach for that, right? And then once you put it in that concept, you're like, yeah, it's kind of crazy I don't have a coach, right? So you need a coach. And so at that point, you said you have multiple, not just vertical motion, but you're also a part of BEM and Black Executive Men. Jules is amazing. His approach and what he's building is phenomenal. So I see that you're also a part of that. Like, what's your experience being part of BEM so far?
Oh man, that's another story.
Yeah.
So I watched Jewel for a little bit on not Instagram, on LinkedIn for a
Hmm.
while. I was watching, I was curious about it. I wound up reaching out to him,
Yeah.
and I eventually joined. I thought about it, I was like, man, this is another part of the journey. I feel like
Yeah.
this needs to be part of my journey. So it's seeing other black executive men, just like the name is, seeing people who are strategic, they're thought driven, etc., and seeing people excel. Because for me, like many other people who are in the group, I didn't see a lot of black executives growing up. I didn't even know they existed, to be honest with you.
Right.
And getting to speak to so many and talk to some people, a lot of them have turned into very great friends.
Mm.
Not just people who can sponsor me. I mean, real, genuine friends, and getting to understand that different space. And Jewel has brought that together for a lot of us. And I sit there and talk with a lot of people from Black executive men, and we all say the same thing. When I grew up, I did not see a lot of Black executives growing up. A lot of us say, like I said, we didn't even know they existed. And I joined, and all of a sudden we're having, fireside chats with all these people who are
Right.
top people of Fortune 500 companies, etc., traveling all over the world. And I'm like, man, I was like, this is something that I want to do. I want to be at that level.
Right.
I've told you many times. I was like, I want to be a person on the fireside chat. So that means I need to get to that level so Jewel can ping me and say, "Hey, man, we want you for a fireside chat." Because the amount of information we get,
Yeah.
the camaraderie we get, man, it will last us for a lifetime. The people I've gotten to meet, the people I probably would have not gotten a chance to meet or interacted with, if I wasn't part of this program, has given more than anything I could ever ask for. So I love being part of that community. Vertical motion, being part of Black Executive Men has changed my trajectory, not only in my career but my life. Getting to know so many great people.
No, it's amazing, and not only that, it's like when you never had that network or you never had that
Mhm.
community, the problems that you're facing, you think you don't, you know, it's not just you facing it, but you feel like it's you facing it alone by yourself. But once you have a network of people and certain things that you're running into, that's stopping you from progressing, it could be internal to you, like moving from surviving to thriving. The
Mhm.
confidence, you speak to executive swagger, right?
Mhm.
Where vertical motion speaks to what you call executive presence, right? But that presence and the executive swagger you can't get if you mentally in your head haven't overcome that, um you know not this process of feeling like you're not enough, right? You're
Yeah.
not worthy, you're not that person yet, right? That concept and that feeling and be like, no, you are that person. You
Yeah.
are at this vantage point because you did what you're supposed to do and you keep doing what you're supposed to do, and that's why people see you, and it's not for you to see yourself. People see it in you. People are observing you and they're like nodding their head like he got it, but you need to feel like you got
Mhm.
it for that, for you to get to that point. And it's just having a coach helps you with that. Like Mike Tyson, if you speak to him when he was a kid, he may not never thought of himself as a world champion, but Costamanda did
Yeah.
see him as a world champion, and he kept telling him, "You're a world champion. You may be a smaller heavyweight, but there's a path forward where you can become the heavyweight champion. And you're going to, in fact, you're not going to only be the heavyweight champion, you're going to be the youngest heavyweight champion, right?" But Tyson on his own, even with the raw power and skill set that he had, wouldn't have been able to put it all together without that executive coaching that he got from Costamano, watching tape, watching people. Look at what he did. Look at what he should have done. You can be this person. And that's what those networks I feel has given
Mhm.
me, is that context of like, all right, you're doing the right things, but you need to believe in yourself that you can be that person. And why not? Why not you?
Yeah.
So
I,
no,
I,
yeah, go ahead.
no, I was gonna say the great thing about, and we talk about BIM, is understanding that you are being seen. Like you talked about earlier. For most of us, I'm gonna
Yeah,
say most of the people in most, once I started moving up, I started seeing less and less of us
that's
in the
true.
room. I go to meetings. Sometimes I used to be, still to this day, a
The
lot of times I'm
only,
the only person in there. And I'm
yes.
like, man, I said, you know how much pressure this is for me? I'm like, I feel like if I mess up, I
Yep.
mess up for everybody. And
Yes.
I had to a little bit step back because I had to realize how much pressure you put on yourself of being the only one in the room. But
Yep.
I also had to realize that I deserve to be in this room,
Right.
that I've worked as hard as everybody else. I deserve to be in this room. I deserve to be in these meetings. I the what I know is very valuable.
You bring
And
something to the table.
yes, I bring something to the table just like everybody else. So
100%.
that's where the executive swagger started coming in. I
Mm.
deserve to be in this room. So when I talk, I always tell people about being a lion in a room with other lions. I
Yes.
had to understand that concept and understand when I go in these rooms, I deserve to be in here. I'm not gonna all of a sudden dial myself down. I deserve to sit at this table. I deserve to talk about what's going on. I have knowledge in this area, and that's what BIM and even a vertical motion brings out of us,
Mm.
is that understanding that we belong in those rooms.
Yeah, no, 110%, and that's the difference. Like when Tom spoke to, it's not just your hard work, but like when you walk into the room and when you speak, people move or feel your presence is what's going to change you from being a project manager to a vice president in the company, or further along than that. I felt that. I've seen it. I've seen it happen before. I've seen young exec, like you've seen people at a company for 20 years and just can't pass the senior project manager position. And then you have someone with half the years and they're becoming vice president. And it's not, you can't just think it's nepotism that causes that, right? Like a company is an efficient unit, it's an organization, it plays to win, right? And they're going to put people in positions to win, right? And so they want to put the person in that position who is going to be best fitted to command that space. And that person who's there for 20 years maybe just don't have certain skill sets that they're dialing in that allows the people to see them in a way that you fit this role and you can manage this role, and that's why you're not in the role yet. You know what I mean? It's just there's so much things that you might open up to when you start seeing it that way, and you're like, okay, there's some work that I have to do. It's not, waiting my turn. It's like developing myself, and the turn is going to come to me because I am that person ready and able for that opportunity to come to me. And then it's also understanding marketing, right? Like I see myself as Ramon Parchment LLC. And if Ramon Parchment is a business, right? There are things and services that you provide. You provide service to your bosses, right? You do an excellent job. That's great. But on top of it, most businesses, Nike spend how much money on marketing? Apple spends how much money on marketing? Nike even has pipelines from high school. So by the time they get to college and by the time they get to the NBA, they already have someone to produce and manage their shoe operation. Why are they spending so much money on marketing? Okay, because it makes sense. So then why wouldn't you spend time marketing yourself? If you see yourself as a business, if you see, Jay-Z said, I'm a businessman, get it, I'm a business, he
Mhm.
gets that. That's what he's saying in those moments. It's like, treat yourself like a business. Once you start doing that, you're like, need to provide good service. I also need to market my service because all big business market, right? And so with that said, I see that you started your podcast, and it's amazing. And the name of the podcast is what I like a lot. So tell us about your podcast, because this really, people need to know what this stands for, because you know we're talking about this for the last 40 to 50 minutes, right? About these two parallel tracks that you do, being a jiu-jitsu black belt and then also being an executive. So what's the name of your podcast?
Oh man, black belts and boardrooms. So
I'm talking
I,
about.
I I love it. Me and my co-host Amir. The funny thing is we are both black belts in our respective martial arts. He's a black belt in Taekwondo. I'm a black belt in Jiu-Jitsu, and we also happen to be executives in the IT space.
Right,
And we had a long conversation. The funny thing is we met in vertical motion,
right.
and he asked me one time we're on the call. He was like, "Man, if you ever think about doing a podcast, let me know." And I
Mhm.
paused for a second. I said, "You know what? We need to talk about that."
Right.
So we talked about it over time, and eventually we started Black Belts and Boardrooms. And the guests that we have on there, just like any podcast, we want to have great guests and hear their stories. We've had people who been in the Olympics. We've had CIOs, CISOs, etc. on the podcast, but all of it is about having great conversations and let other people learn from those conversations.
Mm.
We want people to get to hear how do they get to that level? What are
Right.
the people who are already at that level see, but also how does martial arts transcend their executive level at work? What are they taking from being a Taekwondo black belt or jujitsu, whatever it is, Krav Maga, whatever that is? What are those lessons they're taking in order to make them better at their job and their personal life, etc.? And that's the stories we get to hear. I enjoy getting to listen to people's stories and
Yeah.
hearing what it took to get there. If what's that grind for them? How did they overcome being uncomfortable in certain areas?
Yeah.
And that's what we get to have on a weekly basis. The people we got lined up, I'm always excited for. It doesn't matter what level you are. If you're a great person, we want you on the podcast. And I've been happy to that we started that podcast and that we hopefully keep growing that podcast.
No, it's good, and I love it because it brings together so many different things that people don't usually see. Is like, how does the discipline as a martial artist help you be a good exec, right? And they usually not seeing that there may be there's a lot. Our early classes in jiu-jitsu is called executive jiu-jitsu class because they're 6 a.m. in the morning, right? And that's because most of the persons who have their day-to-day operations as
Hmm.
execs, that's the time they're going to have to train. They're not going to be able to train in the middle of the day or the end of the day, right? And there's so many personnel who have that executive discipline that become great execs that you don't realize that they're also in the boardroom with you. So I love the name. I love the presence. I love your mantra, be a lion in a room full of lions. And I've done type my first endeavor in martial arts. So to bring you back some context, before I even did tennis, what I wanted to do was be a martial artist. I loved Jackie Chan. I loved all of that. My mom was like, "Listen, you're my only child. You're not going to be doing no spin kicks to nobody, right? So here's this tennis racket. Go play tennis." But once tennis finished, the next thing that I did after it was taekwondo. And the parallel that I have with a lot of things that with taekwondo and jiu-jitsu is, and you can ask your boardroom your other co-host. The hardest thing for me in taekwondo was the stretching, like
Mm.
getting stretched out. Oh my god! Like when they have you do the splits, and the only way you can get through those splits is like you start hyperventilating. It feels the same way like if someone's in side control or they have their hand behind your neck. You've given them the ability to start adding pressure to your chest. And you're not turning on your side and taking some of that pressure off or staying calm under that pressure. Feels the same way. And the
Mhm.
only way I got through those stretches is the coach would see like I'm tearing up. He's like, you gotta calm down. You gotta stop panicking. Like you gotta take some deep breaths. And the moment you start taking the deep breaths and you're like, all right, I'm not dying. Just take it easy. Then you start getting closer, low and low. I've never gotten to a full split. It wasn't for me. But I got way further than I would have if I climbed up, right?
Mhm.
And same thing in jiu-jitsu, man. Like a lot of times people have you in side control, and if there's a heavy guy on top of you and he's adding pressure to you, you gotta just stay calm. You cannot panic under that pressure. You're gonna get crushed. So no, when you guys both brought that podcast together, I was like, this is it. This is gonna be a banger. So I'm just happy that you guys did that. I'm happy you took the time to be on the podcast, Renard. It's been an amazing journey for this last hour. Um, my last question to you is if you were 19 or 20 years old, what are the things that you would want to tell yourself that you would want to know now that you've had this experience for the last 20 years?
Oh man, the thing I probably would tell my 19-year-old self, just I guess would say starting in IT,
Mm-hmm.
start building a network early.
Mm,
Start building early. I didn't start building my network until probably right around now, to be honest. So, because you really didn't know that you needed a network,
mm,
but that network and building those relationships are very valuable, and it's something that when you start moving into an executive level, it's
yeah.
not who you know; it's the people that know you.
Mm,
Because all those executive recruiters, etc., they start asking other people about you, so
mm,
you want people to know. So building that relationship. And one thing you also find out building these relationships over time, there's a lot of people who will follow your career throughout your career. I've had a conversation with a former CIO and told me that I've been following your career since the
wow.
last time we worked together. I've been following your career. We should have a conversation. That's what happens when you start building those relationships. Other people start watching you over time. And that's something I didn't know at 19. So I would tell my 19, and I would tell anybody who's just starting off in their career, start building those relationships now. Do not wait until you get to a certain level. Don't wait till your 30s or mid 20s or your 40s, etc. Start building it as soon as you start in your career. Start building those relationships.
That's amazing. Great advice. So, listen, thank you for taking the time to be on the podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure having you here, man. I'm like you said, people watching. I'm definitely watching and learning from your trajectory. It's been a proud moment to have you on this podcast, and I can imagine and only enjoy the process that you've been going through building yourself, but also building this amazing podcast and the light that you shine. I always say to persons that on this podcast specifically, wherever you stand, technically the universe is growing infinitely in all directions, and that means wherever you stand is the center of the universe. And you can either be a sun or you can be a black hole. And the sun gives off light, and off its light comes growth and people and opportunities for other things but just itself. You could be a black hole that just take, and you, my friend, is definitely a light. People get inspired by you, people want to work with you, people do better when they're around you. I saw that you had someone actually take the first jiu-jitsu class. You bring them into the world, let them feel it and get inspired by it. So thank you for being who you are and keep doing what you're doing. The world needs it, and I love to see it.
Man, I appreciate it, man. Thank you for having me on this podcast. It has been great, and keep doing what you're doing because it's inspiring me just being on this podcast. So I appreciate it.
No problem. Keep safe, bud.